Well, good afternoon, Rotary Club of Cincinnati, and welcome to, believe it or not, it's our 7th virtual meeting. It's hard to believe we've been doing this for 7 weeks now, but today we're going to flip the script a little bit because we're going to actually get right into the discussion with Meg Whitman this afternoon, as opposed to starting with a club update, which I'll do at the tail end of our meeting. So we're extremely excited to have you here today, Meg, and as many of our members and others that are joining us know, Meg was actually announced as a managing owner of FC Cincinnati last November. But at the same time, she's very busy because she's also the CEO of Quibi, which is a mobile-only media technology platform which launched during the depth of our pandemic just a few weeks ago. And they actually, in their first week, had 1.7 million downloads. So hopefully it's going very well so far. But Quibi is an application, a platform that's built for on-the-go mobile viewing and featuring a lot of different content in episodes of 10 minutes or less. So it's quite a unique strategy compared to others that are out there. But earlier in Meg's life, she actually graduated from Princeton University and got an MBA from Harvard, and then made her way to Cincinnati, of all places, and worked for P&G for a while. And she's also been the CEO of eBay for 10 years, and also been the CEO of Hewlett-Packard and Hewlett-Packard Enterprises, culminating her career there in 2018. And if that wasn't enough, Meg was also the Republican nominee for the 2010 California gubernatorial race. So she told me earlier that I could ask her virtually any question because she's been asked many, many questions before. So thanks for being here, Meg. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to be with you all.
Well, we know you're extremely busy, so we're gonna dive right in. We know that we want to be respectful of your time with us today, but let's kind of start where it all began. And of course, Cincinnati. You weren't born here, but after Harvard, you got your first job at P&G as a brand assistant. So tell us a little bit about how you made it here and that first career role that you had with P&G.
Yeah, well, at the time, I wanted to be in marketing. And I said, what is the very best marketing company in America? And probably then, and certainly now, it's P&G. So I said, all right, so I'm going to interview. I actually worked at P&G in the summer between my first and second year at Harvard Business School, and then was invited back. And I started full-time in the middle of the summer of 1979, working on a brand called Ivory Shampoo. You will notice there is no Ivory Shampoo. But I worked for, an early mentor. I just showed up and was assigned to a brand manager by the name of Earl Blanks. And, he sort of taught me, because I had no full-time work experience between Princeton and Harvard. I went straight away. So I graduated from Harvard Business School when I was 22. And so he taught me a lot of the basics of business, and, just loved it, and was there for just about 3 years, and then ended up moving to California, which we could discuss as well. But I loved it, and, just had a great time. Lived in Mount Adams, 919 Riverside Place, and looked out on the river, and it was a great time.
I'm sure there's going to be some traffic jams in Mount Adams this afternoon. So, what are some of maybe the takeaways that you learned from P&G that maybe you even still use today?
Yeah, well, I learned at P&G, and I still use it today, especially at a new startup, which is customer obsession. What do customers want? What do customers tell you? Staying close to the customer, understanding customer segmentations, what the needs are of the different segments, how your product does or doesn't meet those needs, is a discipline I learned early on, and I have used it every step along the way in my career. The other thing is be organized. You got to have a to-do list. You got to have a suspense file. You've got to do some things that allow you to be super productive. And again, I was a brand new pup. I'd never worked for a company before. And so some of those really early basic lessons, I learned how to write in business language. Those were the days of writing memos at P&G. I bet some of your members started their career there. It was a memo writing culture. And I still, what came around, and we sort of wrote memos, and we went to PowerPoint. And probably the last 5 years, it's been much more sort of in fashion to write memos. And so again, that, what I learned at P&G has stood me in good stead.
And those memos were typed out on an IBM Selectric typewriter, I'm sure, right?
Oh, it was incredible. And then when you wanted to make changes, your assistant, basically typed out the new sentence and cut and pasted it onto a piece of paper and then Xeroxed it. I mean, it was sort of incredible. Think about it. Pre-word processing, hard to imagine.
Well, your next chapter after P&G, you spent some time at some other companies like Bain, Disney, Stride-Rite, Hasbro, and FTD in a variety of different leadership positions. So what types of things did you take away from those organizations that helped shape you for the future?
Yeah, a couple of things. Well, you might ask, why did I have so many jobs? And part of the reason is that I'm married to a neurosurgeon. And in fact, our 40th wedding anniversary will be June 7th. And,
Congratulations.
And so thank you. And so we sort of kept trading off who was on first from a career perspective. And we used to joke, no sooner did one of us get liftoff than the other one would have an idea. Well, I think we should go do this. So there was a fair amount of moving around as, he took sort of precedence and then I took precedence and we traded off. So what have I learned? I've learned a number of things. First is, and this is going to sound like motherhood and apple pie, but you are only as good as the people that you work. And so the right people in the right job at the right time with the right attitude is crucial. And whether it's HP with 325,000 folks or Quibi where I was employee number one, that is the most important thing. The second thing is far better to have the right strategy and maybe less than perfect execution, as opposed to the wrong strategy and perfect execution, because the wrong strategy is always the wrong strategy. So I've spent a lot of time, trying to make sure that the company I lead or the work team I'm part of is actually on the right strategy. And then you can have the execution come behind it. And execution is not easy, but executing against the wrong strategy is a real challenge. And then, try to pick an industry where wind is at your back, Like eBay, we were at the dawn of the internet and it was extraordinary. Hewlett-Packard, of course, many of the businesses were, if you will, on the wrong side of history. And so, always trying to say, where is wind at your back? So those are a couple of lessons from a long career.
Absolutely. Well, when you, speaking of eBay, when you took over that role, which began, I guess, in 1998, you were in the comforts of corporate America, and you took this job with this small $4 million company. So why in the heck did you do that?
Yeah, I was at Hasbro, and I was running the preschool division, which was Barney, Arthur, Teletubbies, my personal favorite, Mr. Potato Head. And I loved it. And I had two young boys. We were living in Boston. I commuted down to Pawtucket, Rhode Island. But I got a call to come to this no-name internet company called eBay. Actually, at the time, believe it or not, it was called Auction Web. And I was pretty sure I didn't want this job, but I didn't want to make the headhunter mad because I thought I might want his next job. So I said, okay, I will go out and meet the 26-year-old founder. And I sort of just did it because, again, I just, thought it would be good to evince interest. And I came back from that day I spent with Pierre Omidyar, and I called my husband from the San Francisco airport and I said, "Hun, we should do this." And I have a little mental model for great consumer businesses. One is there real features and functionality that makes that product different? At P&G, whiter whites, fresher breath, cleaner cleans. But is there also an emotional connection to the product? And lots of businesses have a feature and functionality benefit, but not an emotional connection. A lot of companies have an emotional connection, but there's not really a difference in the product. When you have those two, my experience is liftoff. And I saw that at eBay in the earliest days. People loved eBay. They had met their best friends on eBay because they connected over a shared area of interest. And by the way, it enabled you to trade without regard to time and distance and boundary. It was an efficient market. And I said, okay. So we picked up, my husband was able to get a job as a neurosurgeon at Stanford in one of the more amazing stories. Then we picked up two careers and two boys who were 7 and 10 at the time, and moved to California. And we just thought it would be an adventure. And we asked ourselves, what's the worst thing that can happen here? Well, and my husband said, I don't know, you go get another job. And so we've always had a little bit of a, we're okay with doing things that are, a little bit risky. Perhaps the craziest thing was running for governor, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But so we always sort of say, what's the worst thing that can happen? And, it turned out to be one of those first, amazing times.
So speaking of the worst thing that could happen is that I read where the first day on your job at eBay that the site crashed for 8 hours. So welcome, Meg.
Yeah. Well, it was actually, that's been reported, but it was actually almost a year later. We had already taken the company public. It was June of 2009. And actually it was June 2010. And 1990, well, anyway, when a year after I started, and and I started in 1998. So so it'd been 1999, and the site was down for 22 straight hours.
Wow.
And we vaporized $10 billion of market cap in 24 hours. The CNN truck was parked outside eBay, wanting to know, when we were going to bring the app up, or the site up, and it was super scary. And I was with the 26-year-old founder, and I said, Pierre, what are they going to do? What are we going to do if we can't bring this site up? And he goes, don't worry about it, Meg. In about 10 minutes, a DBA, a database administrator, is going to come running in here, and they're going to tell us that they brought the site up, and it's going to be, it'll take a while, but it's going to be fine. And I looked at him like, yeah, right. 10 minutes later, a DBA came running in, and we brought the site back up. But we had some challenges for several months afterwards to get the site running the way it needed to run. But it was a great cultural moment for the company because it humbled us. And, humility is always a good thing.
Speaking of culture, I was going to ask about that because I think what I read about was when you first came on board, there were roughly 500 employees, and then when you left, there were 15,000. So cultures can shift as organizations evolve and grow. So how did that work at eBay?
Well, it was even earlier than that. There were 30 employees and 4 million in revenue. And 10 years later, there were 15,000 employees and 8 billion in revenue. And, everyone who's run a business, the bigger you get, in some ways, the harder it gets. Because at the early days, you can manage by completely walking around. I could see 30 people every single day. And then, it starts getting bigger and bigger. And, the key to the whole thing, if you can make it happen, and I would not pretend to be absolutely successful at doing this, is how do you grow big and stay small? How do you have the nimbleness and the ability to be make decisions quickly and not be bogged down by, too many people. And one of the things I've learned over time is the more people that you have, the harder it is. And so having a smaller number of really good people is better than having a lot of people. And sometimes it's harder with more people. And so I've always tried to keep it now very lean. And I would rather, have people who are closest to the customer and then a small senior team to really, make those judgments and be able to move. So we were very clear about who we were. We were very clear about mission and values, and we tried to live those values. But I've learned a lot since those days. And I think even then we hired too many people. Because you've probably been in businesses, there is a voracious need to hire. I've never seen anything like it. Everyone is 5 million and 20 people from greatness. And it's usually not true. And so, how you keep it lean and agile and fresh is so important. And we tried to do that at eBay. And we're really trying, now that I've got another startup, I'm really very conscious of this and holding a very tight rein on, do we really need to have this person right now?
Well, when you think about what you accomplished at eBay and then you compare that to where you started at HP, as you had eBay that had really, as you mentioned, been grown from the ground up, and then you inherit this new role at HP that I probably don't have the numbers exactly right, but over 100,000 employees and not necessarily moving in the right direction, and you're the person that's going to take them in the right direction. So, tell me about the contrast from eBay to HP with what you had to maybe even relearn and reapply.
Yeah. In many ways, eBay was much easier. It was one business. It was completely a technology business. There was no inventory, no warehouses, no manufacturing facilities. It was a completely virtual marketplace and global in nature by its very nature. And of course, HP had 325,000 people, 80,000 contractors, $129 billion in revenue, 7 major lines of business, operating in 190 countries, selling through 275,000 VARs, value-added resellers. I was like, whoa. So the very first, what I would say the commonality is, I'm a big believer in situational analysis. What is the situation I'm in, and what does that require from a leadership perspective? And obviously, a 30-person company versus HP, it's very, very different. And in many ways, thank goodness that I had run for governor. Because what I learned running for governor is when you are trying to enfranchise an organization to move in a new direction, particularly a big one, it is not about the facts, it's not about the figures, it's not how left brain you are, it's about the stories that you tell. And I learned that running for governor. So when I came to HP, I was able to actually articulate what it is that we were trying to do. And communication is crucial in a company like that, because, who knows what's going on in, the server business in Spain. So, so we made some very big and bold decisions there. And the biggest one was obviously to take HP and split it into two. Because my view was there's a time for IT supermarkets, and the 80s was it. The bigger you were, the more one-stop shop you could be for customers. But now it's much more the nimble startups and how do you turn on a dime. And so we decided it was simply too big. And so we split HP into two. Believe it or not, there were two Fortune 500 companies buried inside of HP. So when we split, each one was about a $55 billion company. And it was a really smart thing to do because each business had to stand on its own. Each business, had a leader that could make decisions for a smaller number of customers and a smaller number of businesses. And it created massive shareholder value and gave life to two HP companies.
As I was prepping for this, one thing I came across that I really, really liked was that, when you came on board with HP, you and I'm going to paraphrase for you if you allow me here, but you talked a little bit about a lot of CEOs when they come on board in a new organization, they spend the first 3 to 6 months really trying to fix everything that's broken. And you took the opposite approach, and that is to try to emphasize a lot of the things that were positive.
Yeah.
And try to make sure that the team, so to speak, knew what really you did well. So tell me a little bit about that philosophy and how that worked out.
So interestingly, it was something that I learned at eBay. Because your instinct when you come in as a leader of any, whether it's the CEO or the leader of a work group or head of marketing or whatever, your instinct is, okay, I'm going to find out what's wrong here and I'm going to fix it. That's the way I'm going to add value. What I learned at eBay, which by the way was growing at 70% compound monthly growth rate when I showed up, like, maybe what we should do is figure out what's going right here and do more of that. And that was such an important lesson to me because, first of all, it is how you win hearts and minds of an organization. And by the way, that's probably the right way to do it. Like, let's figure out what this company does really well and do more of it. So when I came to HP, I adopted that strategy. And that was crucial because I was the fourth CEO in 5 years. So the organization was a little bit like, oh gosh, here we got another one. And so by saying, I'm going to figure out what we do really well, and then we're going to do more of that, they were like, okay, she gets us. And so we doubled down on things like customer service and innovation and, actually giving back to the community. And that made all the difference. And then I could begin to make the to-do list of the many, many things that needed to be fixed. So it's not like you give up on the things that need to be fixed. It's a sequencing. And I started every meeting for the whole 6 years I was there saying, let me tell you what we're doing really well. And that just allows the organization, particularly of the size and scale of an HP, to coalesce in behind you, which is so crucial because you can't run these companies by yourself. I mean, there's a whole infrastructure that needs to work on a global scale.
Well, this may sound like this is your life, but we're going to move on to now Quibi.
Okay, great.
So, when you think about after you left HP, maybe the logical thing would be just to retire and enjoy the fruits of your labor after all these years. But you took on Quibi and became, as you say, employee number one and CEO. So tell us a little bit about that decision and how things are going.
Yeah. Well, I thought probably that I would retire after HP. I think I even said that. I had also been named the incoming chairman of Teach for America. So I thought that was really what I was going to do. It's not a full-time job. There's a CEO who's fantastic, but that's what I thought I was going to do. And then I got a call from my longtime friend, Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was head of the Walt Disney Studios, the founder of DreamWorks and DreamWorks Studios with David Geffen and Steven Spielberg. And I'd been a longtime friend of Jeffrey. I was on his board when DreamWorks went public. And he called me and he said, I see you're stepping down from HP. What are you doing? I said, I don't know. I'm going to retire. I got this Teach for America thing. And he goes, no, what are you doing tonight for dinner? So we flew up to Northern California from LA and we had dinner. And he gave me the early stages of this Quibi idea. I said, you know what? It's a really good idea. It's a really good idea. So I did some due diligence and I said, I think I've got one more startup in me. So we moved to LA I joined him in March of 2018, and then we launched the company in April, just 5.5 weeks ago. So And I just thought it was a fantastic idea. This device, this mobile device, could well be the next screen. Think about it. There were movies that were, designed to be watched in a movie theater for 2.5 hours. Then there was television, 36 or 26 episodes. And what we want to do is bring Hollywood quality entertainment to the mobile phone. And so it's on the go wherever you are, whether you're waiting for, in the line at a checkout counter, or you're, at a Starbucks waiting for a coffee, then you can watch a Quibi, because every episode is 10 minutes or less. There might be a 2.5-hour movie, but it's told in 10-minute chapters. So we think it's a pretty revolutionary concept. We built a technology platform that makes watching video on your mobile fantastic. So we're off to a good start. But we had to build the company from scratch. And I just thought it would be fun, and I like to work, and so we thought, you know what, let's do one more thing, and then we can retire.
There'll probably be one more thing after that, Meg, right?
I don't know. This could be it.
That the whole video streaming space is really crowded.
Yep.
You have Netflix, Hulu, Prime, Apple, Disney
Plus,
ESPN. It goes on and on. So tell us a little bit about how you're positioning Quibi that's much different, so that you can survive and thrive in that environment.
Yeah. So really, it's about the screen for the most part. Again, this is mobile viewing. And today, if you watch video on your phone, it's largely user-generated content, and it's not full screen video, landscape to portrait. And so we invented a technology that allowed us to have full screen video, whether you watched holding your phone vertically or horizontally. And we helped the creators, Hollywood's best creators, create unique content from scratch for Quibi. And it's not really designed to be watched on the television, which the pandemic has created a few challenges for us, because everyone has a television 6 feet away. And actually, we are going to allow you to cast to your TV for sort of pandemic use. But ultimately, this is on the go. And less than 10% of Netflix or Hulu or Disney is watched on your mobile phone. So we think it's a completely different use case. And we have a content strategy that's quite different. It's not only movies and chapters. We have alternative, unscripted, documentary. And then we have what we call the daily essentials, which is curating news, weather, sports, entertainment in 6 minutes or less. So you can, get what you need to know and why it matters in 6 minutes. And it's designed for 18 to 44-year-olds. Although I have to say, we have a lot of 40, 50s, and 60s who are subscribers. It's actually surprising to us. So we actually don't think we compete with the Netflix, Hulu, and Disney so much. We think probably it's more TikTok, YouTube, casual gaming, the things that people do on their phone. And we aim to give them a different experience. So that's what we're up to. So sign up now. You get a 2-week free trial.
I actually downloaded it this week, but I haven't signed up yet, but I'll have to try that out.
Okay, good.
So, well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about maybe coming full circle back to Cincinnati. And obviously last year you got involved with FC Cincinnati, but there's probably some soccer fans that are watching today as well that knew that you were involved with the Sacramento ownership group as well. So soccer is not necessarily a new thing for you, but you decided to invest in FC Cincinnati. So tell us a little bit about that decision and what you see the future.
Yeah, so we decided that we wanted to invest as a family office in professional sports. So the question was, what sport? And we looked at all the other sports and we said, you know what? We said soccer is really on the rise, right? It's the global sport. It's not nearly as popular here as it is outside the United States. But we thought, gosh, with the increasing diversity of America and the youth culture coming up, we thought that the trends, remember I told you about investing behind trends, the trends for soccer was right. So now the question was, what soccer team? How do we do that? And we talked to a lot of different groups. We were part of the Sacramento group for a little bit. But ultimately, one of the things I've learned over many years is it really matters who you're in business. If you don't like them, trust them, and feel like you're part of a team and that you get along really well, life is too short. And so we turned out that Carl Lindner and his group were raising some money. And so we flew to Cincinnati and spent the day with Carl and his wife and toured all over and saw what they were doing. And we'd done obviously a lot of reading and we knew about investing in soccer at that point. And we said, this is a group we like. We think it's we're going to do well together, that our strengths are complementary, and we like Cincinnati as a market. I mean, what's crazy about it is that the attendance at FC Cincinnati is like the second highest or first highest in the league for a relatively small city relative to New York or Los Angeles or Miami. And so we thought that boded very well. And, Cincinnati is a sports town. And so we like that. We had a connection to Cincinnati through P&G. And so we said, this is a good investment. And so we were pleased to be able to join forces. And especially with the brand new stadium coming up, in Over the Rhine, we're super excited about what that could mean for FC Cincinnati and frankly, Cincinnati as a whole.
Well, we are starved for some success in sports teams in Cincinnati, so hopefully FC can come through for us here.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Birding, who's the managing, director, he's doing a great job of, recruiting coach and players. And so last year was really about the stadium, and this year is about, improving the on-field performance. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. We didn't get to start when we wanted to start, but we got a lot of hope and optimism. And the stadium's going to be beautiful. I would say to all of the folks that are on the call, really do look at the premium club seating and try to support the local team. And you can customize your own fan experience. Prices are pretty reasonable. And so we'd love to have everyone on the phone, at least investigate whether that would be something you'd want to do, because it matters particularly in a town like Cincinnati. It matters that the Rotary Club members and the folks who help, with the community are supporters. So that would be great.
Absolutely. We're going to close here and come full circle. We started in Cincinnati and we're kind of ending in Cincinnati, but you've obviously traveled here several times over the years. You started your career here. So tell us a little bit about your perspective on how Cincinnati has changed since you came here in '79.
Well, probably my biggest connection to Cincinnati is I've been on the P&G board for many, many years. I was on for, I think, 6 or 8 years, then I stepped off for 2 years to run for governor and then came back in 2011, and I've been on the board ever since. And so I'm back in Cincinnati at least 4 times a year, sometimes 5 times a year. And then, of course, with FC Cincinnati, it's a completely different city. I mean, think about what's happened in Over the Rhine. That was a place we didn't go in 1979. And now it's sort of a hot, new, gentrified place. There's a thriving technology community and startup community there, which I think bodes very well for the city. There's lots of innovation going on here. P&G continues to thrive. David has done a remarkable job in the last 4 or 5 years. And, as an anchor big company, that matters. And it's always been a great place to raise a family and always had great educational institutions. And so I'm very bullish on Cincinnati. I think, you got to continue to make sure that the community stays involved and that there's a hotbed of entrepreneurship. That is, I think that's the most important thing, because there are going to be the next generation of businesses and not-for-profits that get formed. So encouraging innovation and entrepreneurship, I think, is crucial, and I think you guys are doing that.
Things are definitely thriving here. So
yeah.
And now the most important question of the day, Meg. I mean, and I have to ask it. What is your favorite Cincinnati food? I mean, it's either got to be Skyline or Montgomery Inn or Grater's or maybe something else.
Skyline. I'll tell you a funny story. Often, we'll fly back to the West Coast. Scott Cook is on the board, who is in the Bay Area. Sue Desmond-Hellman was on the board for a while. And we would always call Skyline and we'd get Skyline to take on the plane with us back.
You and many, many others. So. Well, I have to tell you, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. And thanks so much for sharing your story and all your wisdom that you've gained along the way. And certainly we wish you all the best of luck with Quibi and also with FC Cincinnati. There's a lot of neat things going on in your life, and hopefully our paths definitely cross again.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks to the Rotary Club for everything that you do for the community. And everyone stay safe and stay healthy. It's a little unnerving and disturbing time, but we'll get through this. And
we
thank
will.
you very much.
And I wanted to let you know as well that, and you probably know a little bit about Rotary International and some of our passions, and the number one priority from a healthcare perspective is to eradicate polio. And it's not been here in the States for a long period of time, but when Rotary got involved in the late 80s, there were 350,000 new cases per year.
Wow.
And, we've been working on this for decades, actually, and through partnerships with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. There's only a few dozen that are resident now in Afghanistan and Pakistan. But the reason I'm telling you this is that we're going to be making a donation in your honor today for speaking
much.
to our club, because it's been an absolute pleasure, and best of luck to you, and we look forward to seeing all the great success coming forward with Quibi.
All right. Well, go Cincinnati. You guys are doing a great job, and we're just proud to be a little bit of a part of it. So thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Meg. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. What an amazing success story that Meg has had. Now we're going to continue on with our club update, but when I thought about today, and I thought about the fact that we're able to speak to Meg Whitman, who has been just astronomically successful over the years, it certainly makes me feel privileged to be a member of this particular club, and because not only do we get the opportunity to give back and provide service to those in need, but we also get to listen to incredible speakers like Meg and acquire some of the wisdom that she's been able to give to us, along with many, many others. So what an amazing opportunity. So let me finish our meeting with a few other updates. And I'd like to start off by talking about what we've done from a COVID response perspective. And I've talked about this in my most recent newsletter, but I mentioned that our club has actually donated, and it's up to what we believe is going to be $214,000 in support of a variety of projects to support the COVID crisis and those that have needs associated with that. But one of the most amazing projects is the foundation-sponsored project. It's the Community Heroes Meal Program that's conducted with support from YMCA. And I just wanted to give you an update on that. Through last Friday, we've actually served 7,534 meals, and that's valued at over $90,000. And of course, not only are we trying to provide meals to those that are in need, but we're also doing a great job and providing great support to the local restaurant industry, which has been certainly decimated by the pandemic. So this project will actually conclude this coming Friday, a week from tomorrow, the 22nd. And so we believe that at the end of that, we'll have almost $120,000 of meals that we're donating for this cause. So an awesome project. I also wanted to pass along a little bit of news that Bob Lewis from the Hilton staff told us as well. And he shared something that one of his servers from the Hilton luncheon staff shared with them as well. And apparently when we provided the Kroger gift cards to all the various folks that serve our meals on a weekly basis, one of his employees actually picked it up, and the Hilton team actually didn't even mention how much was loaded onto the Kroger gift card. And so the story goes like this: that when the employee actually was at the checkout counter at Kroger, and the checkout clerk actually gave this employee the balance that's left on her card after her purchase, she totally burst into tears and was so overwhelmed with our Rotary Club generosity. So obviously that speaks volumes and paints a vivid picture. And I want to thank Bob for sharing that story with us. It makes it all worthwhile. Unfortunately, on to another topic, we're going to have to cancel the summer balloon rides at Camp Allen. Obviously, because of the pandemic, there's some restrictions that are going to be going on out at Camp Allen. And Chris Adams advises that they actually may be able to start camp at the end of June, but there won't be any outside visitors or individuals allowed into camp. So we're not, unfortunately, going to be able to do the balloon rides, which is just an amazing opportunity for the kids out there to take advantage of. But obviously, we plan to restart those next year and bring them back in 2021. So next up, I wanted to just reinforce, we've mentioned a little bit about the Believe to Achieve, which was postponed until September. And the new date is actually going to be on Saturday, September the 19th. So everybody mark that on your calendars, and we look forward to seeing you at Believe to Achieve, which is obviously our signature fundraising event for the year. And just a couple members in the news comments. I'd like to also congratulate Tammy Young for her first grandson, Elias, coming into this world. He was born on May the 1st and was 6 pounds and 18 3/4 inches long. And unfortunately, Tammy wasn't able to be at the hospital, but now she's obviously able to see her new grandson and the family as well. And I think she's a very proud grandma, as I understand. So congratulations, Tammy. And lastly, I want to again congratulate Ed Mathis on another award that he's won. And he was actually named to the Urban League of Cincinnati Young Professionals Affirmed Honoree List for 2020. So congrats, Ed, for a job well done, and you're rocking and rolling, so keep it up. And lastly, in closing our meeting up, our next meeting is actually going to be next Thursday, the 21st, and it's going to be virtual as well. And our Reds president of baseball operations, Dick Williams, will be speaking to us, so that should be quite interesting to learn more about how they're managing towards this season and how the pandemic is affecting their plans and execution efforts. So look forward to a really neat conversation with Dick Williams next week. And lastly, I want to close our meeting with a couple quotes from Meg Whitman that I really, really liked. And the first one is the price of inaction is far greater than the cost of a mistake. And the second one is success happens when good people with good intentions cooperate and work together towards a shared interest. The reason I really like these is that I think they certainly apply to our club. We've made some really swift, far-reaching decisions over the last couple months to serve those in dire need. And there's no doubt about the fact that our club is really a case study that success does in fact happen when good people, as she mentions, with good intentions, work together towards a common goal. So I have to tell you, I can't be more proud to be a member of this club, and hopefully very, very soon, I'm looking forward to seeing you and each and every one of you and your guests in the Hall of Mirrors. So good afternoon, everyone, and meeting adjourned.